Greetings once again, I'm Jake, and you're on the Time Sticking YouTube channel. Today we're going to be discussing how watches got railroad approved in the past. So stick with us through this intro, and let's have a look at the history of this. Now, it can be very easy to take modern watchmaking standards for granted, especially since quartz watchmaking has really made it easy to build an accurate watch. Indeed, things weren't always so easy. With so many mechanical manufacturers throwing their conductor hat into the railroad ring, nailing down accuracy was both a competition and continental collaboration back in the day. It took decades of innovation with a blend of tragedy in order to make railroad watches the most dialed-in pieces of their heyday. With more widespread use of railways beginning in the mid-19th century, as well as an emerging mass production watch market, the biggest powers behind the railroad industry and watchmaking would eventually align, getting ahead of the curve in many respects on global standards of time. In the early years of the railroads, standardized time varied actually by company to company and town to town. In the 1850s and 60s, Canadian and US railways were adopting American-made and Swiss watches with the best standards they could find. Though most wrist watches utilized similar features, bold Arabic numerals and lever-set hands, there wasn't a true list of specifications to go by. Essentially, folks were winging it in North America. The Canadians would go on to kickstart the first railroad watch standards. And ahead, we're going to be paring down the timeline that shows how this emergence evolved into an international affair. As mentioned, the 1850s and 60s is when real conversations started happening about standardizing time for the railroad industry, and the Canadian Pacific Railroad was the first company to take steps in standardizing time. However, it wasn't until February of 1879 that Sir Sanford Ferguson of the Canadian Pacific Railroad proposed a worldwide standard time. His proposal comes 5 years before GMT was established as the International Global Time Standard. By the 1980s, the Canadian dial was adopted by the CPR, a precursor to the US Ferguson dial. It featured both interior and exterior minute-hour markings on the dial without the red and black contrast of the later Ferguson dial. This pocket watch resembles modern standard railroad watches and was incredibly innovative. The 1880s were really building steam on standardized railroad watches from the CPR, but 1893 was a huge year for standardization, in some unfortunate circumstances. 1893 is arguably the most significant date in this timeline. Webb C. Ball was charged with standardizing North American railway timekeeping. This was due to a tragic railway incident in the American Midwest in 1891. The crash involved multiple deaths due to a 4-minute loss of time on a conductor's timepiece. Over 600 rail lines would come to drop their own standards to take on Webb standards. Webb fleshed out some serious standards, and they actually influence watchmaking today. Webb standards state that a watch needs to be open-faced, sized 18mm or 16mm, have a minimum of 17 joules, adjusted to minimum 5 positions, adjusted to temperatures of 34 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, steel escape wheel, lever set, micrometric regulation, Lepine caliber. He goes on to note some variation, however. Some railroads wanted Breguet hairspring, adjusted to isochronism and 30 degree Fahrenheit and minimum of 19 joules. Thank you, watch time. These standards would remain unaltered for nearly 40 years, and a key takeaway from this is that they were lever set rather than using the crown to set the watch in order to keep the crown from pulling out while conducting. Moving into the 20th century, in 1904, railroads and railroad watches have really hit their stride. Railroad companies have whole fleets of quality inspectors checking timepieces for standardized features at every railway stop. Another railway-minded Ferguson invents the Ferguson dial. His name was L.B. Ferguson from Monroe, Louisiana. It is still the most popular railroad watch dial to this day. It was the first US dial design patented for railroad use. By 1930, new standards emerged from R.D. Montgomery, a general railway inspector of the Santa Fe railway system. This is the first big alteration to Webb standards from the 1890s. These new standards included a loss or gain of no more than 30 seconds per every 72-hour period, as part of their requirement. American railroad companies at this time were still buying American. Canadian railroad companies stuck mostly to Swiss watches, but everything was being more mass-produced. In the mid-20th century, watchmaker Longines released the RR280, considered by critics to be a pinnacle watch in railroad standardization. It features a Ferguson-style dial, with all standards met and exceeded. Because of its primary use in Canada, many refer to it as the Canadian. Electronic timekeeping by the latter 20th century made it more affordable and easy to make accurate watches. However, maintaining mechanicals and constant inspection set new standards in watchmaking that still influence watchmaking to this day. If one comes across a railroad-approved marked dial, there's a historically significant quality assurance built into its case. Riding the rails is far more atomically aided in our modern age. Despite this, human hands and thoughtful engineering laid the track for current accuracy. In order for anyone to toot their horn when it comes to accuracy, they have to pay homage to the fact that railways really led to more accurate timepieces, regardless of the fact that electronic timekeeping can now get us accurate down to the second every year. What's your favorite accurate timepiece? You should leave us a comment below. We like hearing about all of our favorite watches from our fans. Hello, and thanks for watching our YouTube video today. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, and you can find similar videos right here. For more new and interesting content from time sticking on our channel, please subscribe at the link here. And for more information about wristwatch repair and watch maintenance generally, you can find us at timesticking.com. Thanks so much and have a great day.